Stephen King writes 2,000 words every morning, and Haruki Murakami wakes up at 4 a.m. and endures strenuous exercise. Here's what they have in common and how to build your morning around the science behind it. Starting with the most important part of it all, what time should you get up? For Stephen King it's 6, for Maya Angelou it's 5:30, and as I said before, Haruki Murakami wakes up at 4 a.m. But do you notice a trend? They all wake up before sunrise. And this is actually a scientifically proven method to feel more alert and energized throughout your day. You've probably heard of Andrew Huberman, and he suggests that you wake up roughly 15 to 30 minutes before the sun rises, and then you get out and take a walk for about 10 minutes as the sun's rising. When you get that morning sunlight, you feel more energized and are able to focus more thoroughly throughout the day, allowing you to write more and be more productive. Also, for any creative person, walking outside in nature is a great time to think of great ideas. When you shut your brain off and just walk outside, you typically have some of your best ideas. Now, speaking of health factors in the morning, Haruki Murakami, after he wakes up very early in the morning and does a really intense writing ritual, he will go and exercise a ton. He does like a 10K run, like a 5K swim, and it's insane. I'm not saying that you need to repeat that and do that specifically, but science and myself have found that if you just spend 15 minutes or 5 minutes in the morning doing some light push-ups or maybe even some weight training, it could really boost your blood flow and help you get into the swing of things when you're trying to focus later. Alright, now that we got all the health stuff out of the way, let's focus on the real nitty-gritty that helps you get into the routine to write and produce your best work. Now, I'm sure many of you have read or at least heard of Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a pretty popular book, and it is very good. I highly recommend reading it for anybody. And now, he's a writer, and in his writing, he talks about how he uses special habits and how he builds special habits to help him become a better writer, better person, whatever. And to start building these habits, for say, a morning routine, like what we're talking about, you want to have a cue that sparks you into the habit. So let's say that you've already gotten through your walk or whatever. You want something that can cue you into the next step, which should be writing, because early in the morning is usually the best time for getting into deep work and to get started with your writing. So one of the best and most simple ways to do this is to just have a time and set an alarm for that time. So let's say you get up at 5:30, you do your morning ritual thing that takes about 30 minutes, and then you want to get writing, and then you want to get writing at 6. Well, you grab your phone, set an alarm for 6 a.m. That's called Get Writing, and then you do that at that time. Having that cue helps you move into that habit and just gets you to work, which is eventually the whole goal of a morning routine. And I'm not too sure who started this. I think it was Jerry Seinfeld, but there's an idea called Don't Break the Chain, where you track how often you follow this routine or how often you're able to start writing at 6, and you just want to label that as a successful day or whatever. But the whole concept is that you just want to keep doing this every single day. Even if it's not that productive, or you're being lousy, or it's a really short session, if you start writing at 6 a.m. every single day for like at least 5 minutes, then you're keeping that chain going, which builds on to compound in its effects on your life and your work. You don't want to overload yourself with too much that you can't handle, so you want to set small, manageable quotas, and that could be as simple as I want to write for 5 minutes, or I want to get 500 words on a page, whatever. Small, reasonable goals for small time frames. And speaking of time frames, it's a lot easier to work if you're not like, I'm gonna work for 5 hours, compared to, I'm gonna work for 25 minutes, take a quick break, 25 minutes again, and then repeat that cycle. That is called the Pomodoro technique, and it's typically done with 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of rest. I found this very helpful, and it really allows me to be focused in whatever I'm doing, and it's a very important part of my morning routine. But sometimes, I know this is a little bit off of the morning routine, but for just writing in general and getting things done and being productive, sometimes you really need to like go all in on whatever you're doing. And there's this famous example by Victor Hugo, who wrote The Hunchback of the Notre Dame, and he really procrastinated his work. He was set to do it, was given like a 2-year deadline, and procrastinated and partied all the way up till it was about 2 to 3 months due, and he hasn't even started the book. So what he did was he removed all of his clothes besides a shawl that made him too embarrassed to go out in public, so he was pretty much just trapped in his house. And he was locked in a room where literally the only thing that could come in and come out was if Victor slided a paper underneath the door for his assistant, or his assistant slided in some food so he was able to, keep living. This whole idea of just eliminating distractions during your morning routine is very helpful if you want to just focus on what you are trying to get as your output. And so you don't have to be as extreme as Victor, but you should try to make your environment suitable for whatever you are trying to do. Like, as a writer, you probably don't want your phone constantly dinging with distractions. Like, that's not going to help you. So set that outside the room, or whatever. It's for you to decide, and you could pretty much choose anything and personalize this to any extent you want to, but I'm sure you know what is distracting for yourself, and there are so many solutions online with just a quick Google search, or if you just ask AI, and it can really help you. That's a brief overview of like all of the best writing routines from science and popular writers combined, and I really hope that you found this useful and can implement at least something into your day-to-day life. And if you want to learn more on being a better writer, but you find yourself overwhelmed all the time, watch this video on stress, because it's very helpful. Other than that, click the subscribe.